Okay, here we are back with another episode of the MuuvWell podcast. Really excited. Last week we had a guest on, Mr. Max Geyer, and just a phenomenal human, phenomenal person. A lot of wisdom at such a young age, a lot of experience at such a young age, just a really cool story. So if you have not listened to Max's podcast that we filmed last week, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. You can also listen to it on our audio platforms, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're live there. So definitely go check that out. We appreciate Max for coming on. He's going to be running the Boston Marathon this year. And I already told him, after you run Boston, you got to come back. You got to come on the podcast, and we'll have him kind of recap that experience. This will be his first time doing that. He's really new into running, and so I'm excited for him to have this experience and think that he'll really enjoy it and be able to recap it really well and tell a good story based on all the content that he posts on social media. But today, finally, we have Mr. Wade Weatherholt back on the podcast.
How's it going?
We have Mr. Kevin Wynn, head of the table now.
Right where I belong, finally.
Back on the podcast. Yeah. And today we're going to be talking about, and we started doing planning for our podcast out about a month at a time. And so it's given us some good direction to be able to talk about certain things. And we're excited to be able to do that. And today we're going to be talking about something that Kevin is really versed in, that he's really passionate about. And it's really cool because Kevin has delivered talks at SHRM conferences, which are HR conferences. So HR professionals that are looking to learn more, get more information, and just learn from other HR individuals, other resources to be a better leader, basically, and to maybe implement certain things into their workplace. And obviously, we're really passionate about developing workplaces, workforces, and Kevin has been able to deliver some talks to some of those HR conferences in 2025 and hoping to do the same in 2026. And one of his talks that he's delivered, gosh, I don't know how many times you've done the talk, Habits Over Goals, but one of the talks that you do often. So I'd like for you to maybe give a little bit of context on that too and talk about what that is, what maybe, just a brief of what it consists of.
Yeah. Before I do that, though, I got to do a little promo.
I was going to say,
Hot Rod Ultra. I just want to talk a little bit about that. That's our race we've done. This might be the sixth. I think it's the sixth year, which is crazy. Signups are up for that. So take advantage and sign up early if you're thinking about it, because we will sell out this year. We sold out last year. And so make sure you claim your spot. We have a Patreon page now, patreon.com/MuuvWell. It's a really cool new addition we've had where you can now join in on our internal team Bible studies that we do on the third Monday of every month at 12 o'clock. We also put our monthly stretching mobility routines in there. So it's just $10 a month. But the biggest part is that $10 a month helps us support our ministry efforts, which is this podcast and our monthly workouts and all these things that we're able to deliver for free to you, but it isn't free to us. So it helps us support those efforts. And lastly, our executive wellness program. If you're not with a company, but you want to work with MuuvWell, check out our website, MuuvWell.com, click executive wellness. You can basically get a team of our coaches, physical therapists, dietitians, personal trainers, at your disposal, helping you perform your best and being the best version of yourself, with customized plans and accountability. We're kind of doing a slow launch on that. Only allowing 12 people a quarter to come in, and we're filling up. We got 7 spots left for this quarter. So reach out on that. Now, I'll get to, I just want to throw that in real quick because we're just so excited about some of those efforts, because it's just helps us really grow our mission and reach more people. And that's what we're all about, is just helping people thrive and bring leaders to life. And that's what Habits Over Goals. I mean, that's kind of what the talk was. I spent a lot of time in my life chasing goals. I think a lot of us have done that. There was a time in my life where I said goals. I was like, I don't set New Year's resolutions because I don't believe in that. I just have goals all the time. I don't think that was the right approach. And then I had a phase in my life, probably in the more recent history, of setting really big, huge goals that were scary and really letting those goals define me. And I realized along the way in chasing those goals, even though I was able to accomplish many of those, really where the success is is the chase. It's the day in, day out commitment to those goals, and the habits that you assign to those goals is what really matters. And that was kind of the gist of the talk, was talking about, setting effective habits and how to kind of move past the discipline phase that every habit has to start with into the habit phase where it becomes a part of who you are. But what precedes all of that is understanding where you're trying to go and ensuring that those goals and those habits are putting you on a path to where you want to be. So when you get to the end of accomplishing that goal, you don't end up in a place that you never really intended to be at in the first place.
Yeah, which is huge. And I think a lot of times people just kind of thrive on motivation, which I'm sure is probably a word that we'll use a lot today in today's conversation. But I think a stat to throw out, and this is from University of Scranton, I'm looking at right here, is about 8% of
Pennsylvania.
Scranton, yeah.
Are you
Michael
sure
Scott
it's
Paper
from the
Company.
office?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Michael Scott Paper Company.
All right, so this is from Dunder Mifflin, research study here of habits over
Very
goals.
reliable.
Yeah.
Very reliable.
At least it is in my world, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, this came from University of Scranton, and they say that Michael Scott Paper Company. I know. This came from a university. We'll just go with that. Yeah. But only, according to the study they did, about 8% of people actually achieve their resolutions to full capacity. So basically, if you say, I think a good example would be someone says, hey, I'm going to run a marathon this year. And they start training and maybe they don't train enough. And then they are like, well, I'll just run the half marathon. So they're still accomplishing something. But in terms of fully achieving the resolution, it's only 8% of people that actually run that marathon or whatever their resolution might be for the new year. And I mean, obviously most people set goals for the new year.
What is it about the new year that
I don't know?
I do it. I mean, we all do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, me too.
I guess for the business we do it. We're kind of planning out our year, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like ours, it's easier going for like a fiscal year, and like setting goals for that. Just with ours running January to December, I feel like it's just a new beginning, a new start.
Yeah.
And it's like something new, branded, and it's easy to tie goals and your new habits, hopefully.
So what does that what does that signify though? That all of us want to be in a different place than we're currently at typically, right? Like what does that
like everybody has something
I don't know
the
answer,
on.
But what does that signify? Why are we all trying to do that?
Say it again.
So why is most people, most adults especially, when a new year starts, they want to be somebody different than they currently are? I'm not fishing for an answer. I don't know. I'm just wondering why is that in us?
I think it's good. Obviously there's something lingering that you want to improve on, or maybe you want to change, whatever it might be. I mean, I think it's good. I don't know, maybe the new year signifies like a reflection opportunity for people,
Pull up that research study from Scranton and see, when did New Year resolutions like really peak? Was it more with like the 2000s when the internet started to boom, stuff like that?
Because
that's a good question.
I don't think I ever saw my parents setting New Year resolutions.
It's such a big thing now. Like, you think people in the 1800s were like, all right, Johnny, it's a new year. I'm gonna
get a new wagon.
This
time for a new horse.
This is the year I get a new mule. Or
I want to see those abs this year.
and why are they always tied towards
fitness.
Now their fitness? Nobody was doing that back in the 1800s, or even like probably 1950s, 60s. But why now? Is it because of marketing?
I'm sure it's all marketing. It's easy to sell things, business wise. Heck, we're even kind of in that business now too, so it's much easier for getting people to buy in and tied into some sort of a calendar aspect of it too.
Or are people now, were people more content a long time ago with who they were? And now we're chasing things of the world, like superficial things, and we tie that to
that's why I think it definitely is tied around to the new media age, honestly. So I don't know what you found there on your quick Scranton, Pennsylvania University.
So this says, if you look back, if you zoom in closer to like more modern era, it says, around the mid to late 1900s, so probably looking like 1960s, 50s, whenever it says whenever fitness started to kind of come in. So you think of like the old school, the golden era in bodybuilding type of thing. I think that's probably what inspired a lot of it. Gyms were growing, so then people want to,
which is
contribute.
likely tied towards TVs coming into
Oh
existence.
yeah. So
Right.
media exposure,
Radio,
like
all that
media
stuff.
exposure.
like what you
you're
said,
saying.
Wade. Yeah.
I just don't. Sorry, I'm cutting you.
No,
off.
you're good.
I just don't feel like my grandparents, that were born in the 20s,
Yeah,
were
I agree.
doing this stuff.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think my grandma that had 12 kids, 11 kids that she was taking care of was really worried about setting New Year resolutions for the new year.
Yeah,
I feel like they had bigger things to worry about.
I think
Yeah.
and they were putting their hope in maybe less.
It's something a lot more
superficial
eternal
things.
Oh yeah, for
Eternal.
sure. I mean, I felt like it was faith and family were the two most important things, and you really
Mhm.
didn't have to focus on improving yourself significantly in terms of like a fitness aspect.
And also, though, you got to think too, like with the advance of technology starting in the 60s, 70s, and then ramping up
Mhm.
dramatically in the 80s, we became sedentary.
Oh my
Like,
gosh,
Sedentary.
not that again. It's been 3 weeks, so folks, I'm sorry about that.
So maybe that's when you start seeing obesity rise and all those kind of things, more chronic health conditions and things
Changing the
like that.
food that we're eating, all that stuff,
Changing, fast food. I mean, that's right when
all that
McDonald's
exploding.
and all that stuff started. I mean, so maybe that's why like a lot of health related goals started coming about, because we're not healthy
Mhm.
as a society. Typically, I mean, most of us,
Yeah.
when you look at America's statistics, it's declining with every decade. It's health keeps going down and down and down.
Mhm.
I don't know. Just wanted to throw that out there. It's just an interesting thing to ponder and think about. I'd love to see if there's any research about those kind of things. Like, did people set New Year's resolutions in the early 1900s?
Mhm.
Be an interesting thing to look at.
Yeah, like actual like statistics. Like,
But regardless, here we are, right?
Yeah.
and, and they're important to people, and we're chasing those things. So I'm excited to dive into it today.
yeah.
But also, I've learned a lot too. I think through talking about goals and chasing goals and habits, and then realizing that I also tied my identity too much to those.
Mhm.
And so, I don't know if that was the direction we were going to go today, but I think it's always important to keep that perspective too.
Yeah, and I think also being able to understand that it's all smoke and mirrors when it comes to social media. I've worked in a lot of different areas of social media, and kind of taking my foot off the gas a little bit there, just because it's you see, and this is kind of giving context to this is kind of giving context to like what we'll talk about today, and basically also telling you that don't be so hard on yourself, and all of your goals are respective to you, and what's doable for Kevin may not be doable for Wade or me, and vice versa.
What the heck you have to pull that one out for?
Yeah,
What's
Wade
doable for Wade may
just
not be
doesn't
doable for
have it.
Kevin. I don't know.
No, but I'm saying like where we're at in our lives.
Kevin had
someone
to cut his eyes at me though.
I don't know. I don't know how to do anything with cattle. That's for sure.
Wade's got that barn, baby.
He's got that barn.
Yeah.
Sorry, Logan.
No, you're good. But no, I think just like also letting people understand that like the obvious example is if you don't have kids, you're naturally going to have more time on your hands most of the time compared to other people. You're going to be able to do more things. People that have kids, they're not going to have as much time, or their priorities are going to be different. So as we talk about these things today, I think just being able to understand where you're at and give yourself a little bit of grace too of where you're at.
Yeah.
And wellness is wellness, fitness is fitness, movement is movement.
And
so
I think understanding that there's seasons of life, like maybe there's a certain season where that thing is appropriate. There's a lot of things I want to do in my life that I've just realized like right now isn't the time. And I look forward to the time that I can do those things, but also don't want to rush the season that I'm in now, because the things that I can't do now because I have greater family commitments is a blessing, and I get to, instead of doing something for myself, I get to do something for these children. That's probably more life-giving than something that I'm just chasing for myself. So.
Yeah. And I want Wade to kind of talk on that a little bit before we kind of transition to like actual habit practices and goals, all that talk. Because Wade, I feel like you're pretty, I don't know, we think we're strategic, but you like when you sign up for Ironman's triathlon events, obviously you have to talk to your family about that and make sure it doesn't make sense. Maybe you talk to your family about it.
After you sign up. No.
Yeah, after you sign up. Forgiveness over permission. But you did Ironman Louisville. You've done it twice now, right?
Yeah, I did.
And so
too,
just like I want you to talk a little bit about like when you make those decisions, and this would kind of help people too. Like, what are some of the things that you look at? Like, what do you have going on that year? What are some family priorities? Obviously, there's financial aspects to all of this. So what do you look at whenever you sign up for events or maybe set goals or something that you want to accomplish for that year?
I think first, especially, I mean, all of us here are married. So I think it's something to sit down and talk to your spouse and significant other and map out what you want the year to look like. And is it appropriate for us to chase those goals right now? And so basically, like going back to what Kevin said, there's seasons of life. And is it appropriate for us right now to be striving to achieve that? You know, last year we did Tunnel Hill. That was attainable. Like I never in my mind thought that 50 miles was going to be like a easy run per se. You know, like I could do that with the training that I already have like in my base. But as you go on, you accomplish some of those goals. Logan, your spam calls are getting in. So
Sorry about
you
that.
accomplish some of those goals and you have those habits built. You're able to do a lot more than what you were initially thought. So, but number one, always talking with my wife first, seeing, do we have any big events going on that year? And anything family wise we want to accomplish first. Obviously that's going to come first. Secondly, I always try to look at work. Like, what does our work schedule look like? Any big events going on, especially around the time of those practices that we're doing. So that way I'm not disrupting any sort of like business practice as well. And then like, just do I have the time physically, mentally to train, to put into it? And I always want it to be a means to an end. So like Kevin said, like understanding where you're wanting to go and like, how is this event actually going to refine me and shape me into the person I want to become? And so like the first one I did, Eliza had just been born, wasn't really happy, like in the space I was in mentally, physically, and I needed a challenge to kind of pull me out of the rut. So that was kind of the biggest reason. And now it's obviously, hopefully, improving my longevity. I know we did the 7 whys when you were asking me, right? So just making sure I stay healthy for the duration of my kids' lives, and I can walk my daughter down the aisle whenever she gets married one day. And so like basically starting with that end in mind and finishing from that aspect.
So kind of like the backward planning approach. I know you've talked about that a lot too, Kevin. So talk a little bit about that too. Because one thing, whenever I was kind of doing research on this topic, and we talked about it very briefly yesterday. Goals aren't a bad thing. We always, we say habits over goals, but I think what's important to understand with that phrase is that habits are the inputs to the goals. So, and I think Wade was kind of saying there, it kind of is that backward planning mindset. So kind of talk about how habits are those inputs to the goals. So in order to reach goal A or goal B, goal C, whatever it might be, you have to do this. And it doesn't always have to be a big habit, but I think just creating those habits are important, whether it's fitness related, whether it's eating certain things, doing certain things with your family. Like, talk about the power of actual daily habits, weekly habits, and then how they're inputs to reach your goal.
Yeah. I mean, I think I love training for races. The races are fun and they're fine, but I love the training because I think it's the habit that I love, because that habit is making me kind of change who I am. And it's kind of that, refinement process we talk about, like forging and stuff like that. It's kind of beating you into submission basically. And that is painful at times. It's not always fun to go through, but the growth that you get from that is very rewarding. And that's what I've really fallen in love with, is the process, the habits. And so, I think like we talked about, first, you got to know where you're trying to go, like Wade said. And then setting those goals. And man, it's funny, as I gave that talk, I started understanding this more. And in certain sense, I started feeling a little bit hypocritical, because I realized a lot of my goals were self-centered, or I wanted to be able to brag about them, or promote myself because I accomplished certain things or whatever. And started realizing as a Christian, and I'll kind of probably later on talk a little bit more about the faith component, that I had some realization from this whole process of giving these talks and talking about them, to where I realized I was skipping a whole really critical step, probably the most critical, as a Christian, the most important step of all this stuff, even more important than knowing where I'm trying to go. I realized I was missing all of that. And really, I can't even understand where I'm trying to go until I have this first step. But anyways, the habits are the magic to all of this. And it's where the growth comes. And it's where the fun part is. I think keeping the habits very simple is important. Something that's obtainable, being realistic with them is probably the most important part. But but not having too many, and not having too many goals. I mean, just keeping things simple. Our lives are busy, and I don't want to make my whole life about running. I don't want to make my whole life about making money. I don't want my whole life about having a nice house. There's a lot of other stuff that I want to make my life about. And so if all of our goals are just rooted in these superficial things that society and social media is telling us where we should put our time and our efforts, I think we're probably going to be a little less fulfilled at the end. And remembering that for me, I love running and challenging myself physically in that way. My family doesn't care how far I can run or how fast I can run. God certainly doesn't care. But if the habit that I assign to that goal, which is running, training, pulls me closer to the things that matter to me, or it makes me a better husband and a better father, then yeah, it's great. But if it's not doing that, then honestly, you need to have a gut check and just stop it. And the world is going to tell you, no, you're supposed to make a bunch of money. You're supposed to, have this great career or this or that. But if it is pulling you from those things that matter the most, you need to stop it. And in fact, you need to run from it. Even if that's physical training. If it's pulling me away from my family, and which I would say is my number 2 priority, God being number 1, number 2, my spouse, number 3, my kids, number 4, my work. Number 5 is my physical fitness. So it's number 5 on the list. If it's pulling me from those, I have to quit it immediately. If it's making me better for them and it's strengthening my relationship with God, then hey, let's do it. But do it at a level that's obtainable and gonna keep me on track.
I think that goes back to where you're just saying, like, making them small and attainable and not too drastic. Because I think whenever we make them super drastic, that's when it can get really superficial and all consuming.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people back whenever probably the New Year resolutions came around, they were pretty physical in their jobs. Right. So they got a lot of the physical training just through the nature of their work. Right. And a lot of fulfillment through that and building things with your hands and seeing that come to fruition a lot. And we've just, as a society, don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And one thing, I like that you said too, Kevin, and I think, we're all Christians. And one thing that I struggled with before I was a Christian was people always saying, well, it's God first and family second, or, God first and then this second. It feels weird. It sounds weird, but this will kind of tie into the habits thing that we're talking about here. But once I became a Christian, about over 2 years ago now, it's like I've started to understand it a little more. And I'm like, well, if I put God first and I'm reading scripture and doing the things that I know I should do and feeling conviction, but trying my best to put that into play of like, okay, we're going to change this habit and this thing that I'm doing. I see that translate to other areas of my life. Then it's like, okay, well, if I put God first, then it's not that I'm like, oh, forget about my family. Right. It's that I'm being a Christian and trying to be and putting God first. And then, I feel that translate. And I think that's the same thing with habits. Like when you do something that's challenging and that's going to help you in other areas, you're going to see that.
Yeah. And I think it sounds harsh to say God over my family.
Yeah.
It sounds harsh.
It feels extreme when you don't know.
When you hear that from the outside looking in, it's like, okay, I'm not going to go to my kid's event because I'm going to go pray or whatever. But I think you have to understand that God ordained family. And so by me showing up as a husband, me showing up as a father, I am in a roundabout way putting God first, So I think it's important to remember that me, doing the dishes or me getting up early and helping with the laundry or whatever it is in a sense, putting God first, because that's not something I want to do, but he's ordained me to be a husband and a father. And if that's something that's important, that's going to help those relationships, then I'm, in a weird way, I'm kind of putting both first. And so I think it's important to kind of have that perspective as we say that. It sounds harsh, but by putting your family first, you are also putting God first too. But if I'm not strong in my relationship with God, then those other things are going to be weak. So I'm not going to want to make those sacrifices to help my wife or to help my children or show up for my children. So you have to have both.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so my point of that was to kind of talk about, like, we're with us all being Christians, like people who listen to this will feel that too. And maybe someone who's struggling with that concept like I did. And it's still weird to say, you know, and if you're like, it's almost like people ask you if you're Mount Rushmore of best baseball players or something. It's like, how do I come up with this? So like having to say God first, family second is a weird concept to think about. And I'd always struggled with that. And it's still, it's weird to say out loud, but I think giving some context to that, but doing that will translate to being a better parent, spouse, whatever. And you kind of said like, in a way, like it's putting everything first.
I will tell you, when my faith's strong,
Yeah.
My wife knows it, and the way I treat her is much better. I'm a better husband.
Yeah,
right?
and vice versa. You can feel it yourself too. It's like, you know,
whenever that's fractured, like you said, everything else follows suit or falls apart, right?
Yeah.
But whenever that's strong, everything else is going to follow suit.
Yeah. But again, just going back, it kind of talks about kind of know where you're trying to go. But the habits are amazing and they're great, and goals are great. So this is not us saying these things are bad. They're amazing, and there's a lot of growth that comes from that. And again, but it's the journey that matters, right? The journey is what matters, and the habits are the journey. So just keep them realistic. Make sure they're in line with your priorities in your life, and then understand their seasons. And you know, just because Max Geyer is running 242 marathons or whatever, and can train a lot more than me, maybe because he has some less family responsibilities, doesn't make him better than me. You know, it doesn't make me better than him.
Yeah.
It's just a different season of life, right? I wish I would have ran back when I before kids and all the responsibilities. I didn't. But it's funny. I said, it was funny. We have a shower here at work, and was going to there, and I put on my shower shoes, and I said, I told you guys, these are the ones I had in the minor leagues. And I remember when I got released from the minor leagues, the first thing I said I was going to do the day I showed up back home, I was like, I'm going to run a marathon. And it took me 5 years to even do a race. And because I didn't understand, I knew how to say I wanted to do things. I knew how to set goals, but I didn't know how to follow through on those. I didn't understand the habits, and I wasn't committed enough to assign those habits to it and to follow through. I didn't have the discipline to be able to do it. And discipline is what starts in the beginning. You know, getting up at 5 a.m. and running when it's cold was not something I was used to when I first signed up for an ultra marathon. It was terrible. I just remember my ankles hurting. Like it wasn't, and I was 28 years old. It wasn't like I was old, but I felt like an old man. I don't feel like that now when 10 years later, when I get up to run and stuff, but my body just had never done that. And I just remember hurting and aching, and the first like half mile would be painful. And then all of a sudden I would loosen up, but it was a couple months of it was terrible. Like it was hard. And now I like crave that. Like I love that because it's a habit. Right. But habits have to start with discipline, and it's going to take you 8 to 12 weeks at least of forcing yourself, getting out of your comfort zone, making yourself uncomfortable intentionally, and then forcing yourself to succeed to actually establish a habit. And it's going to take you at least 8 to 12 weeks, at least, maybe longer.
You talked some there about the discipline. Talk a little bit, because Logan mentioned earlier the motivation. So I think with some of that first, like you were motivated to run a marathon because you got released from the Padres. You were like, I've got to find this next physical endeavor that I can tackle. Right. So you're motivated, but you didn't have the discipline. So kind of talk about that journey there a little bit.
Yeah. And I know, and not to bash motivation, you see this a lot with younger, especially younger men. I think we can get motivated. I say I'm not that young anymore, but especially like when I was 23, when I got released, I was young, and I thrived on motivation. So I could watch a video and get amped up. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I remember the first time I saw the movie 300, I was like, I just felt like, man, I'm going to.
Kevin went and bought a spear and a shield and started doing LARPing in the.
I saw that in wherever Lamar University is. I don't know if it's Lubbock, Texas or something. But I watched that movie, and I was like, man, I just felt so pumped up, and I was going to go do all this stuff. And then of course, like the next day, I'm just like back down.
Forget about it.
But motivation, I mean, it can be powerful, right?
Yeah.
Like music motivates me. Like, I mean, I can hear a song and it can bring tears to my eyes. It can inspire me. It can make me just want to change the world. It can do a million things because it motivates me. You can hear a great talk, we call motivational speakers for a reason, but we all know that motivation doesn't last. It's not sustaining. And so it's easy for any of us to come in and give this great talk to our clients or at a conference or whatever and get people motivated, and you feel it. Like, I mean, the last talk you gave, people were coming up to you. They were They were motivated. They were ready to make changes and change their life. But the reality is you get back home, you get kind of set in your routine, and you kind of, okay, maybe, because we're very harsh critics, all of us, of ourselves. And wait a second. No, I can't do that. I have this thing going on, or no, I'm just not as blessed as that person. Or I just don't have the natural discipline. I don't have this. I don't have that. We all go through that. And so motivation is just like, it's like a fire that's kind of starting to die, and you blow on it, and all of a sudden, woof, it goes up. And, it looks like this great fire, and it has potential to be a great fire. But as those flames rise from you blowing and kind of pushing that energy into it, the next thing we have to do immediately is put more wood on it, right? Mm-hmm. To let that carry forward and become bigger and grow. So motivation's fine. Use motivation, but know that immediately it's going to die out pretty quick. So you have to fill in with that kindling or wood or whatever to make that fire grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so use motivation as a tool, but use it as a tool to fuel that discipline. Yeah. And just know, like, I feel excited now. I know this is going to go away, but I feel like this is something I want to do. And so what I'm going to do now is just think of my next step. Your next step is like that log that you're throwing onto the fire, whatever your next step has to be. And that could be signing up for a race and making yourself commit to it. That could be, reaching out to a friend that you're scared to reach out to. For me and Amanda in our relationship, it was sending my message on AOL Instant Messenger. I like you. That was my next step.
Do you want to hold hands at the movies?
After I heard
do you want to go watch 300?
After I heard some like romantic song, send her, I don't know. But whatever that next step is to pursue that thing, that's like the kindling of the fire. And you got to do it pretty quick, because just know that motivation is going to be gone fast. Now, also spend some time in reflection of, okay, I am motivated, but is this something that is good for me? Is this something that I actually want to pursue and do? Does this make sense? Does this line up with my greater purpose, where I'm trying to go? I mean, so you don't have to spend like, a week as a hermit thinking about that, but you need to spend some time reflecting on that, because especially like in business, I mean, in the early days when we started this, it'd be like, oh man, I'm motivated. Let's do this new thing. And then you start pursuing it and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, you lose money or whatever. So spend some time thinking about it. If needed, get some counsel on it. See if this motivation you're feeling is actually rooted in truth, rooted in maybe God's plan for you, rooted in stuff that makes sense from a life and business or family perspective. But if the answer is yes, then take your next step pretty quick. And then the next step is going to require discipline, which is going to lead to a habit, which is going to get you closer to that goal that you've kind of want to obtain from that motivation.
And one thing, it's been a while since I've said that. I feel like for a while I like talk about the same thing every podcast episode, like use an example. But I saw this graphic, probably almost 2 years ago, and it's kind of like I know you'll remember when I start talking about it, both of y'all probably. It's like almost like a newspaper comic, and it's like two tables, and there are people standing in line at the tables, and one of the tables, it has like a big sign on it that says people that want to be successful. In the line, there's hundreds of people. And then there's another table, and it has nobody in line, or like one or two people. And it says people that are willing to do what it takes to be successful. And so you can kind of apply that, kind of like you said, when you're thinking through what's a goal that you want to achieve, or something that you want to achieve in general. And it doesn't always have to be fitness. Like it can be whatever, but just being able to have the discipline to take the steps that it takes to be successful, essentially, from that, based on that example. And so I think that's why, kind of going back to the habits versus also why people fall off when it comes to the New Year's resolutions. Most people fail by like mid-February, and so being able to take that first step, have the discipline to commit to it, and it's going to suck waking up early to go run, use that example, and it's cold outside, but being able to do that for 30 to 60 to 90 days, whatever it takes for you to be like, okay, now it's become a non-negotiable. It's become a habit. It's something that I do every single day, or I do this day of the week, whatever it might be. And I think that's why people fall off so much.
I remember when I was 10 years old, and I went to a Baltimore Orioles Texas Rangers baseball game.
You still have that ticket, right? Is that
different ticket?
Oh, different ticket. Okay.
But my dad was a baseball scout, as you guys know, and he'd signed a pitcher, Chris Fussell, that was making his major league debut. I'll never forget. They were playing the Rangers, and Pudge Martinez hit a home run. It was just cool to see all that. But Cal Ripken Jr. was in the middle or near the end of his consecutive game streak, and had played his whole career without ever taking a day off. And just was Cal Ripken was like kind of a new age shortstop, and now they're all like this. And he kind of was the first one like this, like really big, tall, had some power. Just it wasn't like your small stereotypical shortstop. So for him to play every single game,
wasn't your Kevin Wynn?
Wasn't Kevin Wynn? Like Kyrie was like 6'4", actually was a good athlete, those kind of things. But to play every game, and you never take a day off his whole career, took a lot of discipline and a lot of diligence and stuff like that. And we were in the clubhouse after the game, and in Camden Yards, the way the clubhouse is set up, there's the kind of like the locker room lounge area with all the lockers around, and they had a glass partition, and then on the other side of the glass partition was a weight room. And we're sitting there talking to Rafael Palmeiro. My dad signed him. He's dressed. He's about to go out to eat or whatever. And we're sitting there talking to him. Everybody's leaving. And I'll never forget this. This is just really sunk in. I look over to the glass partition and I see Cal Ripken Jr., the only guy in there, on a treadmill on the incline, running as hard as he can. And I was like, wow, that's what success looks like. That's why he can play every game and be a eventual Hall of Famer and do all these amazing things he did, because he was willing to do that when everybody else was leaving to go out and party or do whatever they were going to do. Right. And I was like, that it was the first time I visibly saw what success looked like on the backside, like pull the curtain back. I didn't see the accolades of like him breaking the streak and everybody cheering, all that stuff. I saw him patiently grinding away by himself. And I don't know if I'm just making this up, but I feel like the lights were really dim. It was kind of dark in there, and he had nothing on, but we call them sliders, but it's basically like underwear you wear under your baseball pants. That's all he had on. And his shoes. I had his shirt off, and he was just getting it on that treadmill. And it just, I'm getting chills thinking of chicken skin. But I was like, that is what success is. And it's like you said, it's the people that are willing to do what it takes. And he was willing to do what it took to become that shortstop and have that streak and do all the amazing things he did. It just didn't come. Even as gifted and talented as he was, if he didn't do those things, he would not have been the player that he ended up being.
Yeah.
So you were able to see what success looked like.
Yeah.
Do you think many people ever really see what true success looks like in this day and age? I feel like most people see the highlight reel and see the fruits of labor. No one's ever wanted to show the running at an incline after a game whenever you're in the middle of a consecutive streak, or staying up till 3 a.m. trying to make payroll, or like all the stresses that come with being successful in what you do. So do you think now everybody just highlights wins or perceived wins? They may not even be winning, and inside they're not even truly successful.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Wade. I think so. Yeah, I think like social media, we just see the successes, but even the successes that we see on there might not even be real.
Yeah,
right?
It's all skewed. Yeah.
I think it's right. I think my parents did a really good job of exposing me to success, and not only like the pro athletes. I mean, that's not a normal thing.
Yeah.
To be able to be around that was pretty unique. That was able to do that, but also taking me to monasteries. I mean, and spending time with monks and like all the kind of just interesting stuff that we did as children. I kind of got to see what that looked like. I got to see, people praying early in the morning and those kind of things. And I got that modeled by my parents too.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, my mom is a prayer warrior, and she lives her life that way. And I got to see it firsthand. I'll never forget 2 years ago when I went and stayed at Gethsemane, the monastery, went on retreat there. And I actually took a note on this last week. I was running out at Lost River Cave early in the morning. I told you it was one of those mornings that it was like, I don't know, you just feel a lot of inspiration. You almost feel like the Holy Spirit's talking to you, and I don't know if the Holy Spirit was, but I kind of felt like that. And so I was writing a bunch of prayers down as I was running, or talking to them in the notes on my phone. But one of the things that just stuck in my brain was they do liturgy, the hours they pray together, these monks, 7 times a day, I think. And one of them is like at 3:30 in the morning. And we finished prayer at 3:30 in the morning, and they turn off all the lights in the chapel. And I just kind of sat in there and just kind of in the moment, and we're just real quiet. I was up in the balcony. The monks are down below, and there was one little light on. And there was this monk that was in there praying still. And everybody had left. And I was just kind of thinking last week, and I was reflecting on this and all the darkness, like this light is shining down on this person. It's kind of like the Holy Spirit does to us, like you could feel so alone, so isolated, but God's still there. And it was just this image. It was just kind of just stood out to me while I was running the other day. But also thinking about, to see that like this person who's obviously a man of God actually spends time with God, and honestly, I think you guys mentioned it on the podcast a couple weeks ago where I was down with Chad and Blake Wright, and they really lived that. And before they filmed this hilarious video blowing up 20 pounds of tannerite, what Chad was doing before that was reciting a psalm that he had memorized that morning to me, and by heart had the whole psalm. It was long, probably a couple minutes long, that he'd spent time just memorizing that morning.
I didn't know that. I haven't heard that yet. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, so and I think you've actually got to live those things, and it's helpful to seek out people like that and see what they're doing and how they're living and asking questions, because it helps me a lot, but if you're not actually don't have the habits, then everything else is superficial, including like, even stuff you see like on Strava and stuff. There's people that will cheat on that. I know people that will do things that maybe they're not actually even running, and it makes them look like they were running just to say they had a good time. Like I know people have done that stuff, which is hilarious to me, because who cares? But it is what it is.
My 5K PR, I was on a bike.
You're riding along. You're on a pair of rollerblades.
Yeah.
Janae was driving you. No, I agree with that too. And I think people, it's so easy now because social media, there are so many different platforms too. Just kind of going back to that of not beating yourself up so much, because the things you see, it is just a highlight reel most of the time. And I've been guilty of it too. Like I'll post something and it's like I'm recording a run, and I post it on social media, and it was like that, like it looks a lot easier, than what it was.
It's always tagged easy run.
Yeah, easy run. It's like, but but my heart rate was 195. No, but yeah. So I think, and I think. I think because my wife has made the comment too. This is just an example also of like giving yourself some grace. When she first had Leah, our daughter, like she's on social media and she sees moms that have these routines, quote unquote. And, it's awful. Easy to get discouraged because it's like, I'm not doing any of these things, or you feel like you're not. But just reminding yourself that just because somebody else, they're portrayed to you in one way, like they struggle too. And they have hard things, and we're all human. Nobody is able to go through every single day and it'd be easy.
Yeah.
So, and that comes through communication and relationships. And that just shows that that's fractured with people. And I guarantee you, she was talking to those other moms. They have so many other issues they're dealing with that they're just not talking about. Right.
Yeah.
With the social media. Yeah. I feel like both of our wives probably, or all three of our wives have gone through that. But yeah, just the highlight of this is so easy. My kids sleeping through the night, my kids eating well, they're gaining, like all those things, hitting all their milestones, or like, my kid rolled over for the first time at 3 weeks. Look how freak my kid is, just little stuff like that. And it's so discouraging to other people to see that, and it's just, it's just not how it's intended to be. Like if we were actually spending time with people and communicating well with them and just building that relationship with them, like we would understand that that's not all that they're dealing with. And especially through COVID, it pushed everybody into isolation. And I feel like people are finally starting to break out of that, which is wild because it's 6 years after, almost
Crazy.
To the time of when it was, and people are still struggling with that. I feel like, just from isolation.
And, as I've been reading, I was telling you, Wade, I've been reading through Thomas Merton, who was a monk at Gethsemane, just an amazing author, theologian, man of God. I've been reading through his journal. And, one of the things he was talking about there, and it's like, he's right. Like the whole point as a Christian of the whole point of all this, right, is love. It really is. And I know that sounds maybe hippie or whatever to say, but Jesus came and died for us and showed us what perfect love looked like. And it's our if we are followers of Christ, it's our role and our job to show that love to others. I mean, that's the whole point of all this. And we're able to understand what love looks like through our need for it. Like, I mean, life isn't easy, and it's not supposed to be easy, honestly. Like, you know, the stuff we're seeing that looks so easy for everybody on social media, I guarantee you it's not. And you know what? Sometimes we got to be thankful for the hard things that we go through, because it is that refining process that makes us understand our need for this perfect love. But also, the things we're posting should encourage people to grow. I don't know. The point shouldn't be to make ourselves look really good, right? The point should be to maybe provide insights or strategies that I have used or done that have helped me grow in my faith or my ability to love others. And so the point should be to help people, right? If I'm putting it out there like, hey, I've accomplished this thing, or I've established these habits, it shouldn't be because I'm awesome. It should be because I love you enough to want to help you. And there was, you know, when I gave the talks this past year at some of those conferences, you always get the review afterwards from the people. And I would hate reading those, because I don't like feedback. Nobody does, really, unless it's positive.
Yeah. Send me the 5 stars.
And there were some very positive comments, but there was only one that stood out to me, and that's the only one I focus on, is the one that somebody said I was just bragging about myself the whole time. And the reason it stood out was because that was not my goal or my intention at all. I was to show the things that I have been able to do and all my failings along the way, and here's some strategies that I've used to help me. But all this is because I'm a weak person, and I don't, you know, have a lot of the just ability myself to just will myself to do it. Like, I have to have accountability. I have to have people like you all keep me on track, people like you all modeling what success looks like. And so that was kind of the goal of my talk, was to show them, hey, I have all these failings, but here's some of the things that I've been able to do to help me accomplish certain things, and that fit into my bigger picture. And here's all the things I have to do to keep myself on track, because I do have all these failings. And it just dug at me, and it still does, because I'm like, gosh, well, I hope that wasn't what I was trying to portray, you know? But I think if we're posting stuff out there, at least my goal, and I hope it comes off this way, if I ever put anything on LinkedIn, it's the only place I post stuff, is to provide strategies that I hope help people, because they've helped me. And I know how weak and how many failings I have. At any journey alone, I have to have people.
And I think has people support you. That's what Wade was kind of alluding to, is, and this all kind of comes back to habits, because if you are open and wanting to make a change, or like we kind of talked about, when people set New Year's resolutions, I think it's because there's something they want to achieve, something they want to change. Having people around you that are going to challenge you, like yesterday, Kevin had texted us and you were like, hey, optional, like, team run at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Mandatory. Yeah. Mandatory that I didn't show up to. But, and it's like, even in the middle of the night, my daughter woke up at 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. and was throwing up, and we had to wash the sheets and all that. And even then I was like, gosh, I feel guilty not going, just because, like, I'm surrounded by you all each day. And I was like, I know that Kevin, Wade, and Nevaeh, you're going to shame me. Yeah, no. But you all were up and doing it. And I'm like, they probably, maybe their kids were up late at night too. And Wade's driving an hour and a half to get to Bowling Green, so that's just a small example. But, like, just being around people that are doing good things and that are planting seeds in you, and maybe you can take strategies away from them. And sometimes, it's hard to hear, but, like, there's been a lot of time. I mean, and I say this because I've experienced it, but you're around people and their success or the things they're doing is intimidating to you almost, I've been around people, especially whenever I've traveled to, like, Austin, Texas, and I'm around big events, and I'm like, gosh, you feel that, like, jealousy in your ego. It's like, okay, well, like, that tells me that I need to do more and make a change, and use it as conviction and not your pride.
Yeah. I try to, like, I think as I was reflecting on this conversation, and why, like, I seek people out all the time, is because I genuinely want to learn from them, but also I want to surround myself by them, because it normalizes the things they're doing. If you're around enough of those people, it starts normalizing that, where it's like, okay, yeah, I can do this. This is just part of life. And the exact opposite is true of people that are doing bad things, right? Like if you're surrounding yourself with those types of people, that's going to normalize it too, and you'll start becoming that. I mean, we are so impressionable as human beings, and if you're around a group of people that are just living a very amazing life, I mean, you're typically just going to start doing that stuff. So yeah, I was just trying to reflect on that because I seem to do that. That's a pattern that I do a lot. Is I'll just start,
I think you get it pretty honest with your family at least too.
Yeah.
I mean, at your Thanksgiving dinner table, I'm sure you've got between you, your brother-in-laws, or on whichever
Parents,
side, like it's all normal for you all, So, I think you get it honest from your family, but that's a cool attribute to you. I see. Yeah. I feel like I have trouble reaching out because I see it as a sign of weakness, but I think I need to continue to push myself to get out of that comfort zone to challenge myself even more.
So kind of as we kind of wrap up, Wade, I want you to talk about this a little bit, and Kevin, obviously you as well.
I've got a little bit more I want to talk about too.
Okay.
Before you cut things.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Are we still on the same topic? Okay.
Yeah, same topic.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's keep rolling.
No. Well, I mean, I mentioned in the beginning of how I started understanding there's something that precedes all of that. So I just want to touch on that before we.
Okay.
But keep going.
Yeah.
I just want to sneak that in there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you all too. I know we're big on with our clients. We don't consider ourselves your PDF one-sheeter wellness company. We're workforce optimization. That's what we like to say, because we want to actually help people, and we want to actually make a change in their life and give them resources to make changes, whether it's a big goal, small goal, big change, small change, whatever it might be. And we're really big on just making those small changes. And if you've never done it before, it doesn't matter if you're 50 years old, you're 20 years old, like just take that first step. And eventually that leads to habits. And what's been really cool about since I started at MuuvWell is, each Friday we have an all hands and a team meeting where it's all the MuuvWell staff. And we have a section where we can brag on employees or customers, clients that we serve. And I'll never forget, there was one, the first time I'd heard it, it was somebody had literally told one of our coaches that they had accomplished something, like they had run their first 5K or went on their first run, and they were like, yeah, I would have never done that if I just didn't do the Strive for 5. And the Strive for 5 is a daily routine that we it's a video routine that's 5 to 7 minutes long that we provide to all of our clients, and we always encourage people just 5 minutes a day. So like, Wade, I'll let you kind of kick off talking about the importance of that, like starting there. And honestly, that kind of starts as the motivation is like, okay, I have this movement routine that's already prepared for me. It's right in front of me. So I'm just going to do it. They're pumped up. They're just going to do it. And then how does that just continue to build and build and build? And like, what have you all seen as you all have started MuuvWell, the effect of that on people? And even for yourself, like starting somewhere small, how does that build into stronger habits?
Yeah, I think for people, it's just that, like what you just said. I mean, having those small, tangible things that they can perform to give them those wins. And so whenever let's say like Kevin's wanting to run his first marathon, so he tries to go out on his first run and he runs. She's like, I'm going to do a 10-mile time trial or something like that, and he fails miserably. He's probably not going to step back into it. So it's just trying to give people the small little wins that they can have to feel successful, to see what winning looks like if they've struggled with something like that in the past, and just to help them feel good, because the mobility routine that we build in is built to combat a lot of the chronic positions that we're in throughout the day. So it's meant to just hopefully help people just feel better. And a lot of people in this day and age, if you just go to any grocery store, any theme park, any public event, you can just see a lot of people just moving through life, and maybe not feeling fully alive, like what we try to help people strive to do. And so hopefully that will give them a little jump start, just to see like, hey, I don't have to feel this bad. Or if I move this way, movement isn't always associated with feeling bad, and give them that little win, and hopefully take that next step to just doing it consistently for maybe a month. And then if they do that consistently for a month, then they can open their eyes for other things that they can do. As far as for me personally, just being consistent over the last couple of years, just with any sort of like fitness endeavor, spiritual exercises, stuff like that. You can just see it build over time, just kind of like compound interest, and it's going to pay off in the end. So just those small, consistent wins over time will eventually continue to build up and pay off in the long run.
I think for me, like that's how running started for me.
Yeah.
And so I think the big part of the reason we do this 5-minute thing is because we've all done it.
Yeah.
Right. And we've had success with it. And so that's how running started for me. I couldn't run a mile continuously. And again, I played sports and I was decently fit for most of my life, but there was that period of between baseball and then finally running again after 5 years. I was not very active at all. I wasn't working out. I wasn't exercising. I was eating terrible. And it got to where running a mile was really hard for me. And I really struggled just to run 1 mile. And so I started running for 5 minutes, and then that went a little bit longer. I'll never forget the day that I had a loop at my house that was 4 miles. And when I started a second loop, I thought my legs were going to fall off or something. Like, what's going to happen? Cause I'd never run that far.
Yeah.
But it was being consistent over time. And that's what we see with our clients is it starts with 5 minutes, but typically 5 minutes grows into 15 minutes or
bleeds over to other aspects.
If you stick with it.
It makes you more intentional, makes you more aware. And it's those little things that really matter, the habits, right? It's those little things. And we've had so many stories like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally like a person that lost 50 pounds said he started just doing the 5 minutes.
Crazy.
And it changed into other stuff. And so, yeah, there's definitely some magic there.
Yeah. And that's cool. I'm kind of seeing it play out in real time. I'm getting chicken skin thinking about it. But my wife, Emily, she never, ever runs. And I may have already brought this up whenever Wade and I did a podcast together. I'm not sure, but Emily's training for her first half marathon, and I forcefully signed her up because she's talked about it for years. Like after we go to one of my running events, and specifically after we all did Tunnel Hill, which I DNF'd, putting it out there.
That's all right.
We were just talking about that earlier. Like people want to show the highlights.
Part of going for big things is you're going to fail.
Oh gosh,
Right?
yeah.
So don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
You still ran 70 something miles.
Yeah, yeah.
All of us here have failed at goals we've put on.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you can find them all on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
For Kevin.
They're all up
successes
there.
are
Yeah. Now make sure I make you guys look really good. No, but no. After that race, Emily, and again, like I said, she's done it after multiple races that I've run that she comes and supports me at. Where she was like, I love the idea of running a race or running a half marathon, but I just don't want to do the training. And she has said it over and over and over. And so one day I was like, I'm signing her up for this half marathon. And I did. And I made her a training plan. And the only thing that I've done to help her other than make her training plan and make her sign up for the race was on the days where she maybe feels bad about stepping away from the house or doesn't feel motivated. I was like, just go do it and see how you feel after. Yeah. And so now she plans her days around, or parts of her days around going to get her run in. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing her build this consistency. And she had her furthest run on Valentine's Day. Literally, that's what she wanted to do. That morning we woke up, we went to Mammoth Cave and we ran together.
I saw you sent that picture. That was cool.
Yeah. So her and I got to do that with her as the furthest she's ever run. Yeah. And so she still got plenty of time before the race and has, worked up to about 10 to 14 miles a week already and just slowly growing. So I think, and to give you context, she had never run further, never ran / walked, I should say, further than 3 miles before that.
That's awesome.
And so now she's run 4.5 miles and it's, so I think not feeling intimidated by the process. I mean, you're going to feel intimidated by the process, but not to fray away from it just because of that. It's important because it'll build. Just
it can be intimidating when you look at week 16 of her plan whenever she's starting at week 1. So that's right to start week 1, day 1. Just take it in a day at a time and build those bricks.
Yeah, and just starting slow and that'll eventually build up.
And kind of going back to one of the things that I was going to talk about.
Bring us home, Kevin.
Precedes a lot of these habits and goals and stuff. And I started feeling, I don't know, it just hit me one day. I was like, gosh, I'm missing a lot of this. Again, it is very, very important to know where you wanted to go. And that was the starting point for it's kind of the starting point of my talk is you've got to know your why. You've got to understand, what you want your life to be about. I talk a lot about how, I read my eulogy every morning. I read it this morning, my future eulogy of what I want my life to say, my eulogy to say about me when I die. But I started realizing that, again, I'm talking from the perspective of a Christian. Mm-hmm. So if you're not Christian, you might have a little bit different perspective, and that's okay. But personally, this is just talking from my perspective. I started really being convicted of, man, I'm saying that I'm going to accomplish these things, but maybe that's not even what God wants for my life at all. Maybe something really horrible is going to happen to me, and I'm going to die of cancer in 2 years. I don't know, but how can I use that to impact and motivate others? because I don't know. I'm not in charge of my life, and I've got to be okay with that. Now I've got to spend some time reflecting on what I feel God is calling me to, but still understanding that I'm a human and my ability to even comprehend what he's asking me to do is pretty weak. Man, I can't remember. I think it was St. Francis, but he felt God was telling him to build his church. You might know the story, Wade. And so he started rebuilding a church. Like he started getting stones and building and built this whole church. And then at the end realizes God, no, he wanted him to spread the gospel to people. It wasn't a physical church. He was trying to convict him to build. And I think his heart was right in that he was just trying to do what God called him to. And I think there's beauty in that. But just realizing that I've still got to be okay letting go of whatever those plans are, and just kind of maybe setting that as like a North Star, but just being, if God clearly tells me to pivot, that's what I do. But something that precedes all of that, and what I started realizing I was giving this talk, I was like, gosh, that's not the starting point. Really what the starting point is to have a fear of the Lord. And when we hear that, that's another thing, especially as a new Christian or a non-Christian, you're like, fear of God. Like, oh, I see this awful, mean, terrible God. No, that's not what it means. Like, if you really read the context, it's being able to just be in awe of him and just be like, oh my gosh, like this God is so great and so amazing. And I'm just so humbled to even be able to follow him. Like, I had to first understand who God is. If I don't understand God is, how can I understand where he's trying to call me to go? And so really where everything starts is the understanding of who the Lord is and being able to just be in awe of that. That's the most important thing we'll ever do in our life, is being just in awe of our Creator. And then realizing that he made us in his likeness and image, and the weight of that, But if we don't understand who God is and spend time reflecting on that and spend time trying to build a relationship with him, even my why doesn't matter. All right. Because how can I have a good why if I don't even understand who God is? And if I can't see myself in him and what he has created, how he created me, like, that's the most important thing I think any of us can contemplate in our entire lives. Is just spending time being in awe and right relationship with God. From there, everything else is easy. That's where we need to spend our time as a Christian. That's where we need to put our effort, is just reflecting and understanding who God is. And then just boom, then the dominoes fall from there. And so that I started realizing that after kind of as I was doing my second talk, it was just like, I was like, gosh, I'm still making this talk, even though I'm spending all this time talking about your why and blah, 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 bigger purpose and, spiritual wellness, which is living a purpose-driven life and starting with the end in mind and all those cool things we love to talk about. If I don't understand who God is, none of that matters. And so then from there, I just felt like, you know what? I need to rip up my whole eulogy. I need to rip up everything, because really what I need my mirror to say now, what I've realized is Kevin Wynn was a servant. That's it. Right. And if God's calling me to serve in this way, that's what I do. And because I want to be a servant to him, because he is the perfect being. He is the perfect God. And so, yeah, that's somebody I want to serve. Servant has this negative connotation, especially as Americans, right?
Oh yeah.
We're prideful about our freedom, and nobody can tell me what to do, and I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I think that's true if we're serving man, right? Because there is no man that's perfect, and I don't want to be a slave to a man, to humans, right? Because they're not perfect, and they are inherently have sin, and so I'm not going to do everything they tell me, and I don't want to. But God isn't inherently sinful; He's perfect. He's the most amazing creation that we'll never fully comprehend or understand, but it's my responsibility to serve him, and whatever he asks me to do is going to be right and true. And so, yeah, I've been very convicted on that, because I realized a lot of the stuff that I thought I was doing, kind of like St. Francis was, I'm doing what God's calling me to, I'm understanding my why, but maybe it's still rooted in me. And I think as you get deeper and deeper and deeper in your faith, you just start realizing I'm less and less and less and less in control. And then the more you start becoming okay with that, and the more you start becoming okay with the lack of control that you actually have over your life, the more you're set free and the less stress that you feel, which seems opposite, right?
Yeah.
We would think that control would lead to greater freedom, but it really doesn't, because really we're not in control of anything. And so as soon as we start losing control, then we start turning to vices or other things that make us feel like we're gaining control back. So if we can let go of that, that's where true freedom is. And then when we're truly free from the things of the world, then we can really start living into what God's plans are for us, because we start letting go of our selfish, really small picture goals and dreams. Maybe God's calling us to something way, way bigger than we could ever comprehend. And if we had that clearly in front of us, like, I don't think we'd even try to do it, so once you can let go of that, man, that's when the ride gets fun, and that's when you start ending up places that you never thought you could go.
Yeah. Couple things. When Jesus came, he said he didn't come to be served, but to serve. So I think being a servant is very truthful in just the nature of God as man on earth. So I think you're down the right path there, Kevin.
Yeah.
So keep exploring that. Secondly, I think it kind of followed suit with what we were talking about early on. I mean, if your relationship with God is good, then everything else follows suit, right? So we were talking about that before we even came back to all that. So I felt like that kind of follows suit. And then also Thomas Merton's prayer that you introduced to me a few years ago, right? Like, we're not 100% sure this is where God is calling us, but he says in his prayer, but if I think this is what you're calling me to do, so this is glorifying you through that act, essentially, right?
Yeah, because if my will is for you, then it's still
it's good, right? Yeah. So I just wanted to throw in a few of those things. Just while you were talking, those couple things come to mind. Just while we were talking, especially just Jesus coming, or God here on earth as to be served and to serve people, right?
Yeah.
I love that. And that kind of ties back in literally everything we've talked about too.
Yeah.
Like prioritizing that, especially speaking from the perspective of Christians, but having that purpose and being able to focus on that and build habits around that to ultimately get you to where you want to be. And then prioritizing those habits. We use the example of when putting God first. And when you do that effectively, it's going to translate to all the other areas of your life, and you're going to be on the right path, essentially. And that goes into other habits too. It doesn't always have to be this crazy big goal, or maybe you just want to make a change, simply make a change, like just start. And it's going to be, like we've said, we use the word intimidating, like it's going to feel intimidating or scary. But being able to just do it and have a foundation of discipline, and eventually, stick with that for long enough, and then it just becomes, this is just what I'm going to do because I know it makes me better.
And when you're chasing after those things, or I don't know, leaning into that stuff, it's so freeing, and oh my gosh, it's amazing. And I think we all just want people to experience that and feel that. It's such a great thing.
Yeah.
And when we start becoming who God has called us to be, if we understand the Lord, and we get who he is, and then we start becoming that person that he's calling us to be, and because we all have gifts and talents. I mean, I talk about that, and I've talked about that on podcasts before. I mean, it says in the Bible that every person, it's not just, this one person that's gifted and talented. It's every single person has unique gifts and talents. Now, they're all different, but we all have them. And I think a lot of us they're still covered up. We don't even know they're there. But if we start becoming a servant to the Lord from a Christian perspective, that's when those start being revealed. And there's things that I realize I have, and you guys are probably the same, like skills or talents that I have now that I never knew that I had ever before. And you just start learning more about who you are in God's image.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of MuuvWell, right?
Yeah.
Bringing leaders to life, showing the world what's possible is our vision statement. I mean, that's the whole point of this whole company.
Yeah, I agree. Man, what a good way to wrap that up. And again, it all ties back in together. And before we wrap up, I want to give a shout out to our Patreon folks.
Yeah.
Mr. Brent Sanford, he was tuned in today. So
nice.
So Brent, appreciate you clocking in on the live stream. Appreciate you supporting the mission. And again, Kevin kind of talked about it, but patreon.com/MuuvWell. If y'all want to support the podcast, just support what we're doing. You have some awesome resources that we provide to you, our Bible study and other digital resources. We do our Bible study once a month. It's internal, and we offer that out to you as well. So you can come on and listen to
not only listen, but participate.
And participate.
We love
chime
having
in.
perspectives. And
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, definitely. So Brent, we appreciate you, man. And see Dustin Thornton's here in the comments. Great podcast as usual, gentlemen, he said.
One thing to announce too. Dustin, you said Dustin made me think about it. So we are starting our monthly workouts back.
Yes. Yeah.
We haven't
that's right.
announced this yet, but
exclusive here.
Exclusive. First place we're announcing March 24th, 5:00 in the Old Mall in Bowling Green, the WKU Innovation Campus, by the new Chick-fil-A. If you're from Bowling Green.
Yeah, you'll know.
5:00. It's going to be inside in an old mall. How cool is that? We're going to have them the 4th Tuesday of every month.
Year round too.
Year round, baby. Perfect weather. So Dustin, we hope to see you there. Wade's going to be pedaling smoothies on the smoothie bike. So we're excited about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'll be more to come. We'll have some more official announcements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's coming.
Yep. We'll post that on social media. But yeah, so we're really excited to launch that, and we'll have more info coming soon. So if you guys are watching the live stream, we appreciate you tuning in. And if you are listening on the audio platforms, appreciate you as well. Again, if there's anything you all ever want us to talk about, have questions on, feedback, send us a DM on social media at MuuvWell. You can send us an email, info@moovwell.com. And that's if you want more information on any of the services that we offer as well. So gentlemen, thanks for another great episode.
All right.
And thank you all for listening.
Week.
Yeah, we'll be back. See y'all soon.